Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World. So yes, we're on a little late this morning. Well, not really late. Nothing is ever late. It's always just perfect in whatever timeline it exists in. But yeah, that was all me because we just got in last night. So I was like this morning getting ready. I'm like, oh shit, what time is it? I'm like, oh my God. Then I didn't realize I didn't have my computer set up because, everything had been packed away. And then I was like, oh, that's great. So here we are, still adjusting to whatever time zone I'm in today because I've been through, several in the last couple of days coming back from Hawaii. But back to snow, which is nice. But anyway, today we're just going to go back to, as we've done a couple of times, well, just another time a couple of weeks ago, just back to our stream of consciousness of what's going on in the collective and what we've been experiencing. So where do you want to start, Sarah?
Wow. I don't even remember what I texted you about. It's the weekend was very full. Yeah, just really taking that hard second look at everything. And then since we're in such a creation mode with running our class on creative vision board, just looking at the energy of everything passing through in that moment. And is this really what I want to create? Is this really where I want to put my energy?
Right.
Is this really what I want to move forward with?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that has really opened up a new level of honesty, which I think is just terrific. And it's one of the things I wanted to create. So it's funny how in the course, we look at what we've created in the past and what we want to create in the future. And I don't think I've given myself enough credit for what I've created in the past because I haven't even acknowledged it as something that I've created.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So that's that. And like I said, that's opened up a whole new level of self-honesty, which I think is that new level of self-responsibility. And actually that all filters down into the self-nourishment.
Well, it's all connected, right?
So that's something that was really prevalent this weekend, which was just yummy. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's pretty close to the same of, so, we just spent 9 days in Maui and it was a much, much needed vacation. It was really nice. And I didn't think about anything for like pretty much the whole week. It was just literally just being, doing the things I love, doing scuba diving and snorkeling and whatever. And so the biggest thing that I've brought back with me has to do with the whales. The humpback whales are everywhere, right? They're everywhere there because it's the middle of breeding and birthing season in Hawaii. And they literally, every place you look in the water, there's a tail, there's a fin flapping, there's a breach, there's a spout. Like no matter where you are, you just look out off the shore and you see them. And the coolest thing was the second day we were there, we went on a whale watching thing and it was like a little pontoon boat. And I posted, the pictures on Facebook where like a mama and her baby calf just came right up to us, right? And such an immense energy. They have such an incredibly beautiful, beautiful energy. We had that in Orcas Island when we saw, the humpbacks in October. And this is like, literally like she was 5 feet away from me, right? I could have reached out and touched her, but I was taking a picture. And then they were just underneath our boat. And the whole time I was there, every time I was on a boat, they would come right up to the boat. They would just swim under us. They would, swim around us, not just the humpbacks, but also the dolphins and whatever. But the other thing that was so incredibly awesome to me was every time I was in the water, scuba diving or snorkeling, I constantly heard the whale song constantly underwater. And it was so beautiful. And then just to feel it going through you all the time. So of course there's like huge messages there, right? And what is whale symbolism all about? It's all about listening to your inner voice, connecting the spirit to the physical, like listening to what you're not listening to.
Right.
Right. And being honest with yourself, and and in such an etheric and beautiful way, though, that there's no need for self, deprecation or judgment or anything like that. But it was just, and it's funny because I didn't realize how immersed I was in it until I left, right? And then you leave and you're like, oh, I missed that. Like, it's like I miss just looking up and having whales around me all the time. So to me, it's the same thing, right? And looking at that, my journey home has been really holding that, committing to holding that energy of honesty and authenticity in such a smooth and easy way, because there's such graceful, like such huge, but graceful and chill creatures, like, here I am, this is what I'm doing. I'm a whale, I'm being a whale, I'm doing everything, that whales do. And so we get so lost on, I realized so many different layers of, and it was funny because one of the things that kept on reflecting back to me with the people that we were there with was this energy of stopping short of our own realization, right? So like, I'm doing this, and then, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to give up. It's too hard. The ego's just too uncomfortable, whatever, 1,000 excuses. And then like having the answer or whatever pop up literally 5 feet later, 5 minutes later, 5 hours later, because it's there. And it's this realization of, do we allow that of ourselves? Do we allow ourselves? And so, then you got to ask yourself, because we create that, right? You create that for yourself. So why are you denying yourself the answers? Why are you denying yourself what you desire?
Right.
So that's really where I've been looking. And yeah, it just kept on hitting me every time somebody around me would give up on something, what they wanted to do or wanted to happen would happen right after they gave up. And I was witness to that over and over and over again for the entire time we were there.
That's a strong message.
Yeah. And it was pretty much, I think that was what, to me, I was like, so what is that saying to me? And it's like, sort of this, like, okay, you have this moment, you're having this moment of, do I just throw the towel in and just give up?
Right.
I honestly have been considering that for months. And I sort of felt like that was a strong message of, no, you're there. Just be patient,
Right. And I guess that's you get caught in the struggle or the suffering that you believe that you're in, and you think that that's the guidance.
Yes, that's the thing, right? Oh no, obviously it wasn't meant to be, so I'm just going to give up.
Right.
And sometimes it's because of fear, right? Fear gets in our way. The ego is like, oh, well, look, I'm scrambling, I'm faltering, I'm having challenges, so therefore I must not, right? That's when we justify it as guidance. Well, then maybe I must not be able to need to do this, instead of, yeah, but I'm ironing out the crap that's prevented me from getting there so that I do get there.
Well, and a lot of times it's the belief that you have to control the process to get there versus just let go and go with the flow. And then that, instead of being 20 minutes away, it's 5 minutes away.
Right.
And
then it's, but then you second guess yourself every time. Well, is this really supposed to be guidance, or am I just pushing myself through something that I'm not, that's not supposed to happen? So well, I don't know. That's the confusion.
That kind of plays into what I experienced this weekend. And when I look at the objectively what I was presented with, and it's like, okay, where's the emotion in all this? Because that's the ego.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that, oh, I have to have this, or I can't have this, or I must do this, or I shouldn't never do this, or always do this. And that for sure is the ego saying, this is guidance. This is guidance.
Yeah. And I think that's our biggest journey of realization. Like how much drives us through ego that we pretend is guidance because it feels more comfortable, right? Or
well, and we're trained up in that as we grow up, and it's like, those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat itself. Well, but we take that so literally from the perspective of, okay, this didn't work out, so don't ever do that again. It's like, well, maybe it was the mindset you went into it that made it not work out, or maybe it was your need to control things that made it not work out.
Or maybe you just gave up 5 minutes too early.
Right, and it wasn't necessarily what you were trying to achieve, it was the method.
Yes. Well, and that's part of the lesson in itself, right?
Right.
So yeah. So that's been, and then sitting in that for, the week and a half what is my voice telling me? What is really my voice telling me? If I'm totally removed from my normal environment, totally removed from the normal chatter, right? That's in my everyday environment, in a place where, that's beautiful and there's nothing that's wrong. Like everything is great, right? Immersed in this, in everything I love, right?
Right.
What is my inner voice telling me? And it's funny how differently it rings, right? In that kind of environment. Well, so here's the thing. So I'm coming back yesterday, I'm on the plane. I'm like, oh, it feels so clear, blah, blah, blah. We came home and nothing was bad. Everything was fine. The kids did great taking care of the house, and my adult kids took, great taking care of the cats in the house. And, they got us dinner and we sat together and, did our give everybody souvenirs. And then we were talking about, they're giving, the trip, and they were talking about what went on this week, and everything was fine. There was nothing that was wrong. But I found that by the time I went to bed, I was starting to get triggered for no reason. And I'm like, what is this about? And then this morning I was like even more triggered, and I was like, wow. And I was observing that going, there's nothing here to trigger me except just being here. Right.
Right.
And then I was like, well, I need to look at that because that's important to change. Right. This is my home.
Now, I've been experiencing similar, not on that bold of a scale, but it's almost like I'll think about a situation and realize that in thinking about it, I'm taking the whole situation and like trying it on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't like that. It doesn't fit. And so I take it back off, and it's like, I don't choose to do that. But when you're returning somewhere, it's almost like in the process of being back in that environment, you're having to put on things that you haven't had to wear.
Right. Right. You felt free of,
right. Hadn't had to shoulder, or hadn't had to
not even consciously, right?
Or distract yourself with, It's like, oh, when I'm here, I do X, Y, and Z on autopilot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, where did this? I'm like thinking 3 hours ago, I was in bliss.
Right.
And nothing has happened. Right. But I just was falling into some energies that I was like, whoa. I think I need to sit with that today in meditation. Just sort of clear all that out. Because I'm like, well, of course we don't think clearly. Like when we get stuck in our own environment all the time, right? You do pile on those things.
Well, and then the next question is that I always ask myself, so if I had that pure bliss all the time, so I take myself and I permanently stay in that place, would I just eventually develop the same energies
Right.
there because I haven't really discovered what the root of those are.
Right. Right.
And it's okay for 10 days, 2 weeks, maybe even a month. But then they still eventually crop up and because it's like, I will not be ignored.
Right. Right. The ego goes, okay, I've given you a break.
Right. Or it's like your unconscious is saying, you still want to create this.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at that.
Right. Right. And so, yeah, finally, that's how I just stopped the irritation, was observance of, wow, I'm having a little bit of a rough landing into this, coming home. And it's funny because, like I said, there was nothing particular to trigger me, nothing. Like everything's been smooth, nothing's broken, nothing, happened. Everything is fine. I was very happy about all that. The kids were like in their 20s. They were so happy to tell me about the snow we got, and they like went and got, because they had nothing else to play. They went and got a piece of cardboard and like made that like a sled over in the
Absolutely.
park. And they played with, and it was like, oh, that's great. Like, so there was nothing, like they shoveled the sidewalk and the driveway, like everything was taken care of, which was all you can ask for, right? It was just, I found that I just felt like there's energetically. So when I looked at it, it's like energetically, there's something about like immersing myself here after being there. And it's almost like I ignore. I think it's looking at why I ignore some purer parts of myself in being entrenched here.
Right. Well, and that's all about what we don't allow on a regular basis. And that's
right.
keeping ourselves small, or I don't believe I'm worthy of it, or that doesn't have a place here, or that's not as valuable here,
Right.
or I won't be understood as well because
Mhm.
people can't relate to me because, oh, well, you have that. So you
Right.
can't possibly understand where I'm coming from.
Right. Right. And I think that's a big thing for everyone right now, especially, well, and think about it. It's been 2 years, which is funny. It was something that hit us in the airport. One of the airports was somebody said, because somebody in the person at the desk, and they're getting ready to board one of the planes we were getting on, and well, remember you have to keep a mask on. Nothing. She said nothing's changed. It's been 2 years now. It's the same,
Right. You should know how this goes.
Basically you should know what to do, right? So this guy and his wife that were sitting across my husband and I, like, in the waiting area, looks up and he goes, God, it's been 2 years. And he goes, and he just shakes in his head and starts laughing. He goes, that is just crazy. And I said, yeah, it really sort of is, isn't it? Right. But then think about it. 2 years, people have been shut down in their environments.
Right.
In many ways. And they still won't, in many cases, won't leave their house, leave their environment for very long, go traveling, right? Go out very much, interact with others, and now they've immersed themselves in the layers and layers and layers of that stuff. Which, I feel like vacations and even just leaving our house or going to new places just to get a fresh perspective, like, and peeling off all those things of what we laden ourselves down with. I think that really makes it heavy for a lot of people. So collectively, taking it to the collective level, it's okay, well, you were starting to get good at listening to your inner voice before. How's that going now?
Right.
And the ego said, oh, wait. No. We can't let go of this. We can't let go of this. And look at what a great opportunity we have to pile all these things up like a big comforter and wrap it around ourselves and get lost in it.
Right.
Which, in some cases has been very, like caused more sickness and caused more stuff, but then also pushes a lot of stuff to the surface too, because you can't look at anything else. Right. So, I guess the question that we then have to ask ourselves is, how do we, because we still have a lot of people, a lot out there who are not ready, willing, and able to leave those spaces.
Right.
So then how do, I guess, and the question you and I have asked each other, asked ourselves, talked about a lot, is how do we help others to see that within themselves, to take that step and get out of their comfort zone?
Well, and I think that honestly, the more nourished you are from within, the more you don't even see a comfort zone, because it's just,
Right.
It's an innate part of you.
Right.
And so you take, I don't want to say take more risks, because that's not really it, but you become expansive,
Mm-hmm.
which is flowing into new and different areas and finding a renewed joy and sense of amazement, because you're not so concerned with an agenda or having an expectation. And I think that really comes from that sense of being nourished.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, of course, that's the point of all of our classes. It's to come to that place of that self-nourishment.
It is. It is.
It really is. And it's a evolving and ongoing process. It's not a once and done.
Mm-mm. No, because look, you and I are discovering that about ourselves every single day.
Right.
Like new things every week. And yes, we talk about a lot of the same topics, but from new perspectives, because we observe it differently.
Right. Right. And I guess at the end of last week, I had a whole new set of ahas about guidance and hidden messages. But it was nothing new, but it was just that new understanding of, this has been in my face all this time, and how, we always talk about the external world as really just a reflection of the internal world. And, we always get it backwards. Well, if I can just get this fixed, then I'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, if you feel better, then that either looks totally different or fixes it itself.
Yes.
And, a whole new set of things rushed in at the end of last week. And it was like, yeah, my focus has been on the wrong things. And I hate to use the term wrong, because there really is no wrong, but I was tired of being delayed. I was tired of being distracted. So from that perspective, that was the wrong choice for me. And once I flipped my thinking around, and that's really all it took, everything just kind of diffused. And it was like, this really does work.
Mm-hmm.
This really does make things different in ways you can't even quantify or imagine.
Right. And that's the challenge, right? That's the challenge we have a lot of times with the stuff that we do, because it's so holistic, meaning it covers everything, right? It's not just, oh, I feel better from this headache. It's, right. I have changed the reason I'm burdening myself with pain on my neck so that I caused the headache to begin with. And that shifts out of my life. And this shifts out of my life, which is then, a ripple effect to 20 other things that have now changed. But I don't think it does that much.
Right.
And that's the challenge we have for many who take the classes or whatever, because then they go, oh my God, this whole stuff, all of this stuff crumbled. Right. So that
can't be a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, and we don't even always see it until later on in ourselves. Right. And then we go, oh, look at that. Right.
Look at how, devious I am.
I now
Look at how I snuck that under.
Snuck that right in, right? Yeah, it's very funny. And so, you know, the only way to change it, and sometimes we feel like we're walking blindly in the dark. You know, it's funny because I look up at, it's funny, as I was thinking that, I look up at the calendar hanging up on my wall, and I just for the first time saw the quote that's there. It says, "The night is your comfort with her coolness and darkness." And I'm like, okay, just as I was saying, you know, like we're walking blind in the dark, right?
But if you think about that, you know, you tend to focus on different things than when you're walking in the light because you're so distracted by the visuals.
Right.
Whereas when that's removed, you're focused on, what do I smell? What do I hear? What do I sense?
Right. And that's like, so like a great example is in scuba diving, right? Is the same thing because you're wearing goggles, right? So you're looking in one direction, right? But you learn eventually, the more you do it, you learn how to read the current, right? You learn how to read the fish around you and what's going on in the whole environment because you're just so focused, you know, in such a different way, right? Than when you're above water. You know, you hear things differently. Like I said, the whale songs around us, and they're probably, you know, all around us and within a couple miles, even if I didn't see them, you know, while we're under, you know, they're there. And that gives you this different awareness of space.
Right. I bet.
You know, of recognizing how much you're a part of, you know, at once. You know?
Right. And I've often said that if we could see different wavelengths, we would be amazed at what flows through our air.
Yes.
That we are totally unaware of because we don't see it. Yes. But that it's there. And I really think, and I think that the movie Lucy alluded to a lot of that when she was, you know, expanding her brain capacity. And she was seeing streams of consciousness and seeing. Yes. But if imagine if that was all color and we could see those wavelengths.
Well, and that's what it felt like when you hear the whale stuff, right? Right. Because you're being immersed in this other vibration of communication, right? That we're not used to. And the thing that had occurred to me when we were in Orcas Island on the retreat in October was when we were first around them was, they're watching us. They're holding space. They have such a larger perspective of what's around us than us, that they're holding space with us. You know, we think we're holding space with them, but they're actually holding us within their space. Right. And within their vibration to remember. And it feels like this interconnectivity, right? That's simple to them. Right.
Well, and when you read about horses, and horses can sense a human heartbeat at like feet away, and they recognize that individual based on that. And I mean, horses compared to us are large. I mean, change that to the whale scale.
I know. And so like, and you had to think, and it was funny because, you know, we have a GoPro and we took pictures, you know, underwater, and some of the friends that came with us, they did snorkeling one of the days we went diving. So my husband got pictures from down where we were down the bottom up to the surface, underside of the snorkelers. Right. And so we're 60 feet down. Right. And the snorkelers look this big. Right.
Oh yeah. Honey.
And so like on the pictures you're looking at them and you're like, wow, you know, that just gives you this perspective again. And when you submerge yourself. So here's the thing, you know, it's no different than us up here and the frequencies above the water, right?
Exactly. Right.
It's just we're so used to that we take it for granted and we don't pay attention to a lot of the subtleties, which are the messages that we're giving ourselves in that whole orchestra vibration around us, like you're talking about with Lucy, right? Right. So because we don't live underwater, when you go scuba diving, you become far more hyper aware of all that, you know, the longer you do it, because you just start to take note of things. Like I said, wow, it's funny the difference now diving than when I first started, and how it's like you can feel the current change. You can watch so many things around you and just in a moment feel this, shift in energy or
Right.
an expansion or whatever, and listening and feeling that whale song the entire time underwater. It brought a different dimension of consciousness, to the surface, that's already there, but it's that we're just not paying attention to up here. Because we do, like you're saying, we have colors and sounds and everything here in the way it moves through air. And you have the bird sounds and the animal sounds and everything that makes this symphony that we are so immersed in that we lose our perspective of its importance. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We become deaf, dumb, and blind to it all.
Yes. Yes. And so then the messages, that's the whole guidance thing, right? From our guidance course, that's the whole, like, taking note that everything around us is guidance. And I'm sure there's so much that has now been, I just know so much has been, I want to say activated in me, but more of brought to consciousness within me that I still haven't even registered everything yet.
Right.
Because it was constant, like for the entire time I was there. And just think about that. They go down there every year at this time. And they said what we heard from most of the naturalists or whatever on the different boats we were on were that there's more and more. They're like, there are more and more coming, which is great because of all the whaling industry holds and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's more and more every year, like, that come and do the breeding and all that stuff and calving there. And you're just thinking, well, is that in reflection of what we're doing collectively, right? They're holding space in a bigger way. They're helping in a stronger way, right? In a different, like you're saying, the size of them. It's incredible. When you first started, like, right up next to them, you don't realize how big they are.
Right.
When you're on this pontoon boat and the whale just goes right underneath you, like you're nothing but a rock in the ocean. You're like, wow, that's pretty incredible. But it's a different, it's just a completely new way of reminding ourselves to pay attention. And then the ego starts to get overwhelmed a little bit, going, well, how do I hear everything? Like, how do I pay attention to everything? How do I, see it? And it's like, well, that's where we get into the place where we don't have words, right? And there is more lack of explanation.
Right.
Say, I know something is because I know it because the birds say it, or the animals say it, the plants say it, the colors, the sounds, the smells, the vibration of everything around me is reminding me of this thing interdimensionally, and I know it in a way that we have no words for, because words are very three-dimensional.
And words are our biggest limiting factor, I believe.
Yeah.
Because number one, we have these narrow definitions attached to the words. And then on top of that, there's the languages and the differences in the languages. And then we believe that that's all there is, that's enough.
Yes.
So I saw something that's similar to that. It's like, communication is something that's necessary, but what's important is understanding.
And from the understanding is where we are being, right? And that's what I spent a lot of time looking at, on my vacation, which is I am never so full and aware in vibration as when I'm just being, right? And we talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, and we don't do it.
Right.
So, and I think I saw, or I read somewhere that, people, like, out of all the states, I think Hawaii people have the most quality, best quality of life or whatever, anything. And people say, oh, but it's so expensive and this and this and this. But people are very happy, like being very simple, right?
Right.
And it's a different way of being, which, you know what, the whales are great at, because you know what, they're, like I said, I think they're giving us a whole lot more in reminders and messages and their vibration and their communication and stuff than, all they're doing is being whales. They're just swimming back and forth, doing their thing, existing as part of the symphony. And it's like, oh, wait, we do that. We do that before we build on all those layers of stuff of what we have to do.
Right. And be for other people.
Yeah. Yes. And that was apparent too. That was apparent because there were things and interactions that we had that it was funny, because I was like, well, and how much it triggers other people when you don't do what or you're not being who they want you to be. And you're just being yourself.
Right.
And when you don't care, and I'm not saying you don't care you're
not invested.
When you're not invested in that, and you're like, okay, well, you can get triggered.
Right.
I'm just going to be me. Have fun with that.
Right.
We take that with offense. The ego takes that, offensively. So, yeah. So I guess the message from that is for us this week has to do with really, committing ourselves to, and of course, what does that do? That ties it right back into our class, our vision, our Wonder Vision Board class, which is listening to the energies versus creating and controlling through the things, right? And the boxes and the doings. Right. Because all of these things in our 7 essences are really, let me just look. Yeah, they're all beings. I mean, guidance seems to be a thing, but it's really an immersing yourself in the knowing.
Right. And the allowing.
Yeah, and the allowing part, right? So worthiness. And I mean, we say it's a thing, but it's really it's an energy, right? Worthiness and trust. The guidance is the knowing. And then there's, let me go through all these because I'm still just, getting myself back to this, forgiveness and gratitude, acceptance, right? And that, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Self-responsibility, the shadow. Yeah. And I mean, the beauty of the shadow.
Right.
I look at, what are the whole Hawaiian Islands are all volcanoes, right?
Right.
Created by fire.
Right. Which most people would say are bad things.
Right. And yet it's some of the most beautiful landscape you're ever going to look at, so we consider it beautiful because of the depth and the contrast, of the textures and the visuals, and that's the shadow. Right. So if we don't appreciate that, well, so the shadow is a thing, but it's also a perception of depth. Right.
Right. Well, and it's I don't know. I still look at it as a construct of duality, and it's it's laden with judgment and limited perception, and it's just I don't know. It's everything we make it or not make it.
Right. And then, self-love, which is the being, coming to the place of being.
Right.
Giving yourself permission to just be, because you're already perfectly divine and complete and realized and enlightened.
Yeah.
You just got to allow your whole being to be, instead of just, shutting down the parts. It's the opposite of what we think. We think we have to attain instead of, letting go and allowing.
Right. And it's that whole thing that the key to expansion is not going out, it's going in.
Yes. So So our clearing then would be what today? All that in a little nutshell.
Right.
Remembering our pure, I allow myself, what do we do? I'm worthy to remember how to allow myself to be the pure essence of my being, to allow myself to communicate that with me. It's all about me today, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is. Give myself permission to embody that.
Yeah. In every moment, in everything I am. I don't want to say in everything I do, because that comes from the being, right?
Right.
In everything
Right.
yeah. That feels good.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. All right. So everybody, as we always do, we're going to set ourselves in this energy. We close our eyes, take a deep breath as we step out of separation into wholeness and oneness, back into that space, and hold that vibration where that is our truth. That is from where we exist, create, and experience. Let's go. All right. That was just peaceful for me.
That was very peaceful.
Yeah.
Very flowing.
Yeah. Like a breath, just a breath kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a good reminder for me while I'm figuring out this re-immersion. So, all right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Look at that this week. Keep it, constant observation. And if you're ready to take some steps, then, you can still sign up for our Wonder Vision board. Any of our classes. We can still do the Wonder Vision board, just even though we started already, doesn't mean you can't still take the class. It's because it's pretty much, it's mostly self-guided. We do one live weekly, but we also post the video from that as well. So thank you for joining us. We will see you next time. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni
signing off with this week's Ascended World. Have a great one.